way to start on a Sunday. Like McKenna mentioned, my name is Carly, and I'm going to guide us through this practice this morning. I also have a little assistant today, so hopefully she won't be too much all over us. But this is the life of practicing at home. So you are joining me in my practice space, my home office, in my home in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. And from wherever you are in the world, taking a moment to find yourself into a comfortable seat. So that could be seated on, I'm sitting on a couple of blankets, sitting high up on the throne. It could be seated on a chair. You could be seated wherever you're comfortable, preferably somewhere that's not so squishy that you're going to be sort of slumped and curled over, so that we have lots of room for the potential of expanding in our breath. So once you find yourself into that comfortable seat, just lean back, or rather forward, and pull back on the fleshy bits of your seat so that you're trying to sit right up on top of the thighs as opposed to more on your tailbone. And then you can hinge yourself forward at the hips, hinge yourself a little back, a little side to side, and find a place where it feels as though your spine is floating on top of your hips. You can change the curvatures of your spine to help you accomplish this sensation. And the same goes with the neck. You can kind of move your neck around in space and find a place where it feels as though your head is floating on top of your spine. And once you find yourself comfortable, if there's any parts of the body that are calling your attention, that are feeling strained or pulled or pained, bringing a little bit of lift underneath them, maybe another folded blanket or two under your knees. And the practice of deepening the breath is usually, for me, a practice of allowing my full breath to kind of reveal itself. So as you continue to find physical comfort here, more and more muscles letting go of their hold, using just the muscles you need to support you here and nothing more. And in doing so, maybe that allows for a little more space to open up in the back of the body, in the side of your body. Low down for the breath, in and out through the nose. And at the top of our practice here, recognizing how you're feeling energetically, where your mind is, what your body's feeling like. And as we practice together, making choices that support you and what it is you need from this practice. Maybe that aligns with some of the things I'm offering, or like slight modifications or options or variations on those offerings. Maybe it's something completely different. Trusting that you know what your body needs to be well. And as you continue to ground yourself into this present moment here, noticing also all of your physical needs. Maybe it's for comfort, to cover up with blankets, to take a sip of water, and feel free to honor any of those needs throughout the practice. If for some reason you need to leave the space and you won't be able to come back again, just let me know in the chat box. Now connecting down to the base and the foundation of yourself. As you inhale, leaning forward, forwards, 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 right to the tip of the mountain, off to the top of your legs. And then as you exhale, leaning back, 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 back towards the tail. So leaning forward, 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 right to the tips of the tops of your legs. And then leaning back, 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 back. And you can sort of move this practice as slow or as quickly as you'd like from the tail forward and back. So if you need a little energy this morning, maybe starting to move quicker, forward and back, forward and back. Don't eat my cord, forward and back. And if you are craving a little more depth, a little more introversion, a little more quiet and calm, maybe moving slower. And maybe that movement coordinates with the breath and maybe it doesn't. And then you can keep going forward and back if that's what you need to stoke the fires, to get some energy moving. Or we can start to explore the edges, starting to big circle. Again, really focusing on the basement of your body, the lowest part of your body that's making contact with the mat or the props, circling in one direction and then circling in the other. And as you continue here, choosing which you need, the forward and back or the round and round, or maybe a combination of both, forward, back, round and round, forward and back, round and round. Make sure that you change your direction of the turns and get right into the corners that you are maybe missing. So I find that I always kind of skip the back corners of this practice. So really getting into those juicy bits. And then once you've done that a few more times, we'll find ourselves back in this neutral, stable center. Maybe a slight change to the way that you're finding yourself in seated now that we've explored that practice. Lugging your sitting bones down into the ground, almost like plugs in an outlet. Take an inhale breath. And as you exhale, you're going to place your left hand to the floor, reach your right arm up. Keep the arms like in this T shape. And as you come over, hinging at the hip to find this shape. Whoop, I broke my own roll. In this T shape. And then we'll come up on the inhale, reach the arms away from one another. Be cautious you're not arching your back. And then as you exhale, keep your arms in this T shape. Find your side bend. So by keeping the arms in this T shape, we're really focusing most of the side bend to the middle part of the back that often gets overused during the week. Inhale, reach those arms really far away from each other, and be cautious as you exhale that the hand that comes down to the floor doesn't charge the shoulder into the ear. Back to center. A couple more times with your breath. As you lean over, keep thinking of reaching those arms far away from one another. And then back towards center. Interlace your fingers together and place them either to the top of your head or to the back of your head. And in either case, you're going to push the hand back push the head back into your hands so that you're not driving the neck forward or putting pressure down on the neck. And from that same middle part of your body, we're going to arch up so that your heart's looking up to where the wall meets the ceiling, and give a little pull on the arms. And then keep pushing your head back into your hands, rounding forward. Heart goes open to where the wall meets the ceiling in front of you, and then the back of your heart to where the wall meets the ceiling behind you. Forward and back, pulling on the hands, pushing the head back. Maybe 2 more times. And then come back to your neutral shape, relaxing the arms down, maybe gently shaking out the head and neck if that feels good for you. In a moment, we're going to transition onto the back. So as you do so, moving nice and slowly, maybe start off just laying flat on the mat with, let's say, knees bent, feet to the mat, and check in with how that's feeling. Which parts of your body maybe are feeling a little strained or a little more obvious than other parts. As you do come to lie onto your back, if there are parts of the body that are feeling more obvious than other parts, that's a great indication to bring a blanket underneath that space. So a blanket underneath your head. If your neck is feeling compressed at all, a blanket underneath your tail. If your low back is feeling compressed, or maybe underneath your chest if your low back is feeling compressed. And then take this shape, if you're able to lie onto like a hard surface, like the floor, that's ideal because we can use that unforgiving hardness to kind of shift and adjust our bodies in a different way than if you were lying on a soft surface like a mattress or something like that. So maybe just moving a little bit, experiment with how the arms feel when they're wide away from your body, when they're closer to your body. Your elbows could be bent with your hands on your belly if you'd like. Experiment with taking the feet wider than they usually are, or closer to your seat or further away. And then after a breath or two, find yourself in this neutral place. Here, our relationship to gravity is quite different. So it's a different sensation, perhaps, but we're still seeking comfort. First and foremost, comfort. As you breathe, you might feel the back of your body expanding down towards the ground, and it might feel like a little more effort to take those full breaths. As you next inhale, start to become aware of where your low back feels against the ground, even lower than your low back, what's called your sacrum, that flat part of the back where your round seat kind of meets the flat back. Trying to rest your weight onto the sacrum, or notice your weight on the sacrum equally across the left and the right sides. Keeping your torso in this position, as you inhale, both legs are going to move gently away from one another. And as you exhale, they'll come back towards each other. So as you inhale, noticing or becoming aware of the leg as it plugs into the hip socket, and visualizing this movement coming from that joint space where the leg plugs in the hip socket. And in essence, the only thing that's moving are the legs themselves. Out and back in. Out and back in. So only go so far that you can still rest your weight on the sacrum. So you're not changing the curvature of your low back or your cervical spine. You're not clenching your butt or your thighs. It's like easy movements, like a swing swaying in the wind. And then once you've done that a couple more times, come back to where we started in the center for a couple of breaths. Heel toe the feet out a little wider, maybe about as wide as your mat, or wider still if you'd like. Take an inhale breath. And as you exhale, just one leg at a time, we're going to take the right leg and dip the knee towards your left leg. So I'm actually going to come up onto the inner edge of my foot, and my foot kind of, the sole of my foot kind of peeks out here. And then back to center. Same idea here is you're only going so far that the torso itself stays in the same position that it was in. So I'm not actually moving my hips at all when I do this internal rotation. Maybe 2 or 3 more times, and then come back to where we started. My little monkey. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So your feet are about as wide or wider than your mat. And then the inner left knee moves towards the right knee, back to center. So we're internally rotating now to the inner edge of our foot, initiating the movement from where the leg plugs into the hip socket. So my other leg isn't moving, my hips aren't moving, my spine doesn't change shape. After you've done that 1 or 2 more times, taking a moment or 2 to find rest. We're going to reach both arms up towards the ceiling now. You can have the palms facing each other or facing towards your feet. Let the weight of the arms, so my elbows are straight and locked, and I'm going to let the weight of my arms sort of drive the shoulder blades into the floor. So all of a sudden, with my arms extended in this way, I'm really aware of my shoulder blade tips, those little bony protrusions on either side of my heart. Without changing the shape of your spine. So the intention here is just to move your shoulder blades and let them kind of slide across your rib cage or slide across your back. The arms will stay the same distance apart, and I'm going to reach straight up to the ceiling, and all of a sudden I can't really feel those shoulder blades making contact with the mat anymore. And then the weight of the arms drives those shoulder blade tips back down. So with my arms in this way, I can really see if I start to shift up or down, or if the arms move wider or closer. And the goal is, if you were to kind of draw a line straight up to the ceiling from your middle fingers, you're staying on that line as you lift the shoulder blades and lower them. So those 2 shoulder blade tips move away from each other and then ground back down to the mat. Ensure that we're still breathing here. Maybe 2 more times. And then the same idea, still moving from those shoulder blade tips. Both arms are going to start to open away from each other. Notice as you do that, the shoulder blade tips move closer to each other. And then from the shoulder blade tips moving away from each other, pressing the arms back together. Shoulder blade tips move towards each other. Shoulder blade tips move away from each other. So although you can see your arms, really visualize what's happening on the back of your body here with those little shoulder blade tips, and try to initiate the movement from those 2 places. We'll just do this 1 or 2 more times. Waking up the joint space. If you're able, we'll interlace fingers now and bring the hands behind the head. And all of a sudden, since the relationship to gravity has changed, this might feel a lot different than it did when we were sitting up. Be conscious that you're not arching your spine or lifting the ribs away from the floor. And if that's happening, maybe this is just a little too much for today, and instead you'll interlace fingers and bring the hands to the forehead, so you've got those few extra inches. or you could simply reach the arms back to where they were before. Your choice. If you have fingers interlaced, whether they're behind your back or behind your neck or on your forehead, really change. Down to the sides, like, or wherever they're comfortable for you. And once again, heel to the feet so that they feel strong and stable. So if you visualize the soles of the feet making contact with the ground, the three most prominent points of contact would be the knuckle of your big toe, or the ball of your big toe, the ball of the pinky toe, and the center of the heel. As you make contact firmly with those 3 points, make sure that the feet feel stable enough that you could push into them or pull them towards you, and it feels like both feet are equally doing the same amount of work. In this space, notice that you're breathing once again. And as you next inhale, fill up the belly, expanding, filling up. As you exhale, driving the belly button down towards the ground and tilting your tail towards your knees. Inhale, come back to where you started. Fill up and expand. Exhale, tilt your tail towards your knees and lift the first vertebra. Inhale, rolling down, expanding, filling up. Exhale, tilt the tail towards your knees and lift the first couple of vertebrae. Inhale, lowering back down. So we're kind of making these progressive rolls, vertebrae by vertebrae, up the back. And the intention is to break up adhesions, break up those habitual patterns of movement that encourage us to move the same few vertebrae at the expense or while ignoring other ones. So here, really giving just as much attention to the one vertebra as you do the ones below it. Inhale is to lower down, to expand, to fill up, and exhale is to lift the pelvic floor, lift up through the base of the body. As you continue to roll a little higher with every exhalation, noticing still that you're making connections to those strong, stable foundations of the feet. Noticing still the breath. And we have to do all of these things all of the time because that's just metaphor for life. We're always doing all of these things all of the time. So you're going to balance all of these priorities, which are most important to you in this moment. Maybe you're going to share your attention every time you come up onto a different priority. Feel what works best for you. Try different options. We're going to do this for maybe 2 more breaths. And the next time that your hips are down to the ground, just take a moment or 2 here. Bring yourself into as comfortable a shape as possible, where the physical body can feel at rest, but the mind is still alert and awake and aware. We could spend the last few moments before our Shavasana, our final resting pose, our integration, practicing a brief introduction or practice of Yoga Nidra. So it's a guided, mindful practice. The first priority here is physical comfort in your body. Maybe that's the shape you're already in. Maybe that's something completely different. Maybe that's covering with a blanket, turning off lights, lighting a candle, whatever you need in this moment. And then listening to the sound of my voice, allowing it to keep you present here for the next few moments before we settle into integration. As you breathe here, listening to the sound of your breath. And then listen to the sounds in the room that you're in. And then expanding your ears a little bit further to listen to the sounds from just outside of the room that you're in. The buzzing of appliances or lights, the wind outside, the birds, the other people you're sharing space with. And then stretch your hearing as far as it will possibly stretch to hear the thing or things or sounds that's most furthest away. Just try to identify the sounds without lingering too long on them. Hearing those sounds and moving on to the next one. And then bring that sense of hearing back to the building that you're in. Then back to the room that you're in. And then back to the sound of your own voice. You could be still or a little bit of gentle movements. And as you keep breathing here, become aware of the furthest points of yourself. Each individual finger, then each individual toe. And simply take an inventory. The left thumb, the right thumb, the left index finger, the right index finger, the left middle finger, the right middle finger, the left ring finger, the right ring finger, the left pinky finger, the right pinky finger. And then do the same with the toes. So you'll simply state and bring all of your attention to that one tiny part of the body. And then as soon as it is you bring your attention, energy, awareness, you let it go to move on to the next. But each is given its own complete moment in your consciousness. And then the left wrist, the right wrist, the left ankle, the right ankle, the left shin and calf and lower leg, the right shin, calf, lower leg, the left knee, the right knee, the whole lower left leg, the whole lower right leg, the left forearm, the right forearm, the left elbow, the right elbow, the whole left lower arm, the whole right lower arm. And then repeat this same process to the left thigh, hip, right thigh, hip, left underarm, shoulder. So you'll go through each one without a rush, naming and moving closer and closer towards the heart. Continue to do so until you hear my voice again. Then letting go of this attention to the body, this inventory taking. And once again, straining those ears to hear the sound that you could identify that's furthest away from you. And then attune your hearing to the sound of the rooms adjacent to the space that you're in. Then into the room that you're in. And then back to the sound of your own breath. Start to move and awaken physical parts of the body that have been at rest for the last few minutes, stretching out or rolling or bringing them close to you. Maybe rolling over to one side and resting there for a breath or two. And when you feel grounded in your body and the space that you're in, slowly coming up to end our practice the same way that we started it, in a seated shape, comfortably seated on your props. And once again, checking it with how you're feeling physically, with your breath, with your energy level, and how fast or slow your thoughts are coming. Taking a moment here to offer yourself a word of gratitude for having made time for this slow and deliberate practice. Maybe sharing that gratitude to the other people who practiced along with you. Gratitude to your teachers and the lineage of yoga, to the people whose land we practice on. And lastly, my gratitude to all of you for spending this time with me, one of our most precious commodities, time, and for being gentle with yourself, maybe intending for the week ahead that a little bit of that ease and gentleness and mindfulness follow along with you. I hope to see you again next week.